And then, of course, we have Adversary finding zero-day vulnerabilities, and they do it their own way. And one of them is reverse engineering software. So they might open up a lab, they may get a copy of the software, and they might actually poke around and try to find vulnerabilities themselves.
And especially with open source software being as popular as it is, there's several open source libraries that are in use on billions of devices, and all of the code is freely available for anybody who wants to look at it. And that includes the bad guys.
Yeah, it's very interesting because open source is very much a double-edged sword in that way. Because on the one hand, you're going to get good, honest people come forward and say, hey, this is a problem before it becomes a problem. But on the other hand, you might have the bad guys get to it first. Then we have exploring known vulnerabilities for novel exploits. So you want to mention that real quick?
Yeah, and that's another one. It's a little more advanced. This is kind of the discoveries we would see from like APTs. This would be if there's a known way to, or if there's a known vulnerability with a common service or program or whatever the case is, that doesn't have any known exploits associated with it, or if there's not really a clear way of doing anything with it.
However, it may have been noted when the vulnerability was noticed. It may have been noted that a remote code execution might be possible. It just wasn't figured out.
Yeah.
So then folks go out and figure out a way to exploit it, right?
Exactly.
Then you have targeted attacks and compromise of classified security. So compromises of classified security vulnerability information. That's a big one. Eternal Blue is the obvious one there.
Yeah, that one was probably one of the most notable leaks in recent history. Yeah, and for those not familiar, Eternal Blue refers to an exploit kit that targets one of probably the most commonly used Microsoft protocol with Active Directory and just with Windows in general, which was the server message buffer protocol. It was a way for essentially to facilitate file transfers on a network. But Eternal Blue took advantage of this and allowed for through a buffer overflow, it allowed essentially for remote code execution, total control, and it was a very, very powerful exploit that was essentially kept hidden by the NSA for 7 or 8 years before it was leaked. But the leak of this was pretty catastrophic. There's a whole history on that, but a lot of security agencies that have, secret vulnerabilities that they're using to spy on adversarial countries and all that kind of thing. If that stuff gets leaked, it can be very powerful because we're talking about APTs at that point. So